Testing 1, 2, 3. Is my microphone working? Looks like it. What am I going to do? Where's share screen? Which one's share screen? Is it? Well, what am I doing? Oh, window. Which window am I doing? Oh, entire screen. Sure, let's do entire screen. Oh, gee, okay. So here we go. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Radicals. Here we go. Write down these examples. And I want to talk you off the proverbial ledge as best I can. Let's say you have the cube root of a negative 8. Let's say you have the negative cube root of 8. Let's say you have 16th to the 1/4 power. And let's say you have, now there should be a noise when this thing starts going goofy. Oh wait, do I have to turn my microphone on? Do I have to turn my sound off? Will it give me feedback if I have my sound on? And I have negative 16 to the 1/4 power. Those are the 4 things here. Let's start with Mr. Simple here. Cube root simply means what number times itself 3 times would equal a negative 8. So, first thing you have to understand is the only way to get a negative out there is for all of these to be negative. That has to be the same number. And what number times itself times itself times itself gives you 8? 2. So the answer to this is simply negative 2. Okay. This one, please understand, this negative is not with the 8, so you have to say to yourself, what number times itself 3 times will give me that 8? 2, and then there's a negative out there, which gives me that. Okay, which is the same answer. But the reason we give that to you is going to come up here in a minute. Here is what you have to say. How do I find the 4th root, or the 4th exponent, or the 4th power of something? No, that's a good thought. Okay. To do this, ladies and gentlemen, watch this. If ever you come up with a fractional exponent, you change this into a radical problem. The denominator becomes your index number. In other words, this 4 ends up going out here. The numerator becomes your exponent under the radical. And you can, I would hope you go, what? This 16 goes under the radical. This number 1 is its exponent. Now, unfortunately, that number 1 doesn't change the 16 because that equals to the first power itself. So the answer to this simplified is, what is the 4th root of 16? What number times itself 4 times gives you 16? It is, in fact, 2. Okay, well, I'll give you some more. So if you don't catch that, we'll do that again. But this is the part I do want you to make sure you understand. Okay, so here, same thing is true, except I have a negative 16 under the radical sign. It's still a 4 out here, and it's still a 1 there. So the 1 doesn't matter. What number times itself 4 times gives you a negative 16? Somebody. Negative 2, let's try. Negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Negative times a negative times a negative times a negative gives you a positive. The point driven home here is this. You can never have an even index number and want a negative number under the radical sign. It's impossible. There is no solution to this, no solution. The only way to get a negative, have a negative under radical sign is for it to be odd, because an odd number of negatives gives you negative. Now let me go again. Sorry. Fine, we'll do some more. This is gonna take a little bit of time. How about this? I gotta find it. 15 to the 1/3 power. (15 to the 1/3 exponent) is the same thing as, remember, the bottom becomes your index number. The whole number goes under the radical sign, and the numerator becomes the exponent there. So this is what is the cube root of 15, and that is? Huh? You can't simplify that. There is no, I mean, it's an irrational number. That is simplified as much as it gets. Some things they don't just work out there. How about, I guess, where's another? I need a better example. Somebody find a better example. I got it here. How about this one? Negative 64. Negative 64 to the 1/2 power. The 1/2 power is the same thing as, if you think I'm still, my phone's still on. Testing 1, 2, 3, oh it is. That's 1, 2. This is the same thing again, remember, make your radical sign. This is the index number, which is just the square root of a negative 64. Can I get the square root of a negative 64? I cannot. So this is no solution, impossible. There's no same number times itself that gives you a negative number. Now you're going to ask me, are you ready for the thing you're going to ask me? I got to find it first. I got to find a good example of the thing you're going to ask. What if the fraction is not, what if it's this? 16 to the 3/4 power. Let me say, what up?
What up?
Okay, you can, ladies and gentlemen, you can look at it this way. Just like I said, bottom number is the index number. This is 16 to the 3rd power. And you could take 16 to multiply it by itself 3 times, which is going to give you some very big number, and then try to figure out if it has a 4th root. But there's a better way to do it. I'm waiting for somebody to ask me.
What's the better way to do it?
The easiest way always to deal with fractional exponents is if you can get a 1 to be the numerator. Okay? Oh, look at, there was some sign of interest there. How could I get a 1 to be the numerator? If you go back to the power rule of exponents, you could split this into this. See if this makes sense to you. You could take 16 to the 1/4 power and raise it to the 3rd power. Because, remember, exponents, 2 exponents get multiplied, and 1/4 times 3 would give me the 3/4. If you can simplify this inside, and then take it to the 3rd power, you get the same answer as this bad boy. Let's try. I can see you piqued your interest. What would this be inside the parenthesis here? It would be the 4th root of 16. But that would still need to get cubed over there. What is the 4th root of 16? 2. This actually ends up being a 2. And 2 cubed would be, somebody? 8? 8? 8. Which is what you would have got had you multiplied that all out there. Does that make any sense? Just say no, because it's a struggle. Let me give you another one. Yeah, here's one. Negative 64 to the 2/3 power. Negative 64 to, to the 2/3 power. Remember, you can think about it like this. This would be this is the index number, right? The cube root of negative 64 squared. Which would give you some big long number. We don't really want to do that. I guess if you had a calculator, that probably would work out well, but let's not. What would I change this to? I would make it negative 64 to the 1/3 power squared. Why did I make it that? Because if I multiply these two things together, I get that 2/3 I would get there. And try to work this. You always want a fraction that has a 1 there, because that'll make your life easier. So now if I simplify inside the parentheses, I get the cube root of negative 64.
Negative.
And I'm gonna square it. Yeah, what number times itself? You get negative 4. Square negative 4, and your answer actually is 16. This whole thing will give you 16. I will say, not negative 16, negative 4 times
Two
negative 4.
negatives times each other.
What?
If the answer is 16, how can that get to negative 16?
Because it's the 2/3 power. Wait, let me check it out, make sure we didn't do something wrong, because you might have a good point. Hello, no, that should be it. You have to square, let me look and see, it's actually a problem in the book here. This might be a good breaking point if this is not the right thing, let me look, see. Oh, you know what? It started out being parentheses. I'm gonna look at that, kids, because, well, what time is it? I'm gonna stop there. That's a good question. I'm gonna make sure I'm not telling you something not right here. Let's stop there. But I do have, no, I got an assignment for you guys. Actually, here, let me put it up here for you. Before we go any farther, we're gonna review what we've already done. This, I'm gonna call this an assignment, not a quiz. Because I will give you time to work on that later, because by the time we talk about this. This is what we just did right now. Oh, wait.
Parentheses.
Did we do this one?
No.
No.
Skip this one, because that was what today's was. Here, how am I gonna graph this?
Y equals.
How am I gonna graph this?
Or Y
X, Y intercepts. It's in inequalities. What happens on inequalities? You shade them. What side are you gonna shade?
The
Flip
bottom, but
the
it's
side,
negative, right?
so you flip
Thank
the
you very
bottom.
much, because the Y is negative. You don't shade the greater side, you shade the negative side. Good call, whoever saw that. This one, how would you solve that system of equations by?
Elimination.
I would go elimination. Take those opposites. So let's look at where we at here. How do you figure out slope of line with 2 points?
Take two lines.
Oh.
Slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. See how much you forget over time? How do you write an equation that has a slope of 1/2 and a y-intercept of 6? Y equals mx plus b. Oh, look at this. That negative one there. Solve and graph this inequality. Now, here's where people go mistakes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not this is not, you're not gonna graph this on a coordinate plane. You only have one variable here. So this is just gonna get graphed on a single line. You know what I'm saying? There's no X's and Y's, it's only one letter. So you're gonna, after you solve it, your graph is just going to be a line that has either a dot and a circle and a thing. It's not a graph, because there's only one. You only have to do a line. And number 10 is solving a absolute value equation. What is the key to know an absolute value equations? Brain?
It's actually divided by itself.
Isolate the absolute value. Dan Anderson? You have to write two equations. After you isolate this, you make one the way it is, and the other one you make the opposite for it, you know, the negative thing. Boo?
Boo, yeah.
Yeah, let me find that for you. I got stop.
Boo.
Right. I don't have to stop.
How do you feel about that? All right. All right. How do you feel about boo?
It wasn't too hard.
Boo.
Slope equation is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x. Change in y over change in x. You can look at your notes.
They're about $70 buy.
So,
Oh, wait,
it should be under
what's
12.
wrong with
That's
the
all of it.
That's where there's no.
What?
Because the law.
Yeah.
Has set me free from the laws and that.
What's the law, what the law should do?
The laws for
Have I got one? We forget something. Oh, wait,
It didn't meet.
sorry, I did miss two problems here.
Oh, I have two papers.
I gotta, don't we forget about that, don't, look right here, did I talk about this one? Remember this one? This is a compound inequality. Solve that for x, what do you have to remember, Kabari?
Whenever you do
Whatever you do to this to get rid of it, you gotta get the x by itself in the middle. If I'm gonna subtract 10, I have to subtract 10 from both sides. Also, the x is negative, so when you divide by the negative, what's gonna happen? Signs are gonna change. And then here, yes, they both, because you're dividing both sides. This one asks you for the range and the domain and the range. Remember, domain is the x values. It starts from here and goes to there on the x-axis. The range is the y values. Here's the bottom of the y to the top of the y. So that's where it's going to be, x has to be less than or greater than or equal to